What is up, people? Van from the VaniverseGaming channel here, bringing another video. Today's video is going to be looking back at some of the old Dungeons & Dragons games. I'm a huge fan of Dungeons & Dragons if you haven't noticed by now, and I really like making videos on Dungeons & Dragons content, and so I decided to start playing all the old Dungeons & Dragons video games that were available on Steam, and I came across one called Daggerdale. And when I came across it, I was shocked to see how terrible the rating is. It has the lowest rating of any Dungeons & Dragons game on Steam with a mostly negative. So today we're going to dive into the world of Dungeons & Dragons with Daggerdale, a game that's seen its fair share of criticism and disappointment among the D&D community. I'm here to explore why this title has earned the dubious honor of being one of the worst rated D&D games on Steam. And so grab your sword and your spells and let's embark on this little quest together. So before we can get into this review, we got to understand what is Daggerdale. And I went out to the Steam store page to read exactly the description of what this game is. Dungeons & Dragons Daggerdale offers engaging hack-and-slash gameplay, bringing Dungeons & Dragons to life. Travel to the Dalelands of Forgotten Realms, where the journey begins in the remote Desertsmouth Mountains. From the sulfuric catacombs of the mines of Tethyamar to the dizzying heights of the Tower of the Void, Dungeons & Dragons Daggerdale delivers action-packed challenge that will satisfy the most seasoned adventurers. Now that's a lot to say. It's a hack-and-slash top-down action RPG, and you get to pick from different characters and kind of run through the game. And their choices are very limited. You get like an archer class, a mage class, a fighter class, and that's pretty much what you get, and then you play through it, similar to other games by D&D that are these action hack-and-slash type games. Now, let's dive into some of the pros and cons about this game so we can uncover why this has gotten a mostly negative rating on Steam. Okay, so I would like to think of myself as a mostly glass half full kind of guy. So let's talk about some of the positive things about Daggerdale. Now, Daggerdale is a cooperative game experience, so you can play with your friends, which does make it a little bit more fun because every game is better when it's co-op and you can play with somebody else. It does do a decent job of capturing kind of the Dungeons and Dragons, elements, the essence of D&D. And it, incorporates classes and abilities that are very reminiscent to a D&D game. The setting's in a known place, the Forgotten Realms. But outside of that, it really is, hard to kind of put it to a D&D game. Now, although you are confined into mostly the dungeon structure, there are some open world aspects to it within that dungeon where you can potentially explore, maybe uncover some hidden stuff and engage in some various quests that are outside of the main storyline. The game does feature some controls that allow you to be configured, where if you get them configured to the way you like it, it can offer kind of a smooth combat gameplay. So it does enhance the playability a little bit. And it's not all bad. It's just very basic. Now, that's really all I have to say that is good about the game. So now let's kind of talk about the cons of the game. And unfortunately, I think there's more of these than good things. Okay, so I think the problem with Daggerdale was the journey encounters some numerous pitfalls. I think Daggerdale, when it released, and even today, what really has helped get it to this negative rating is it has a lot of technical issues. There's a lot of glitches, there's a lot of bugs. There's some crashes that happen, and anytime you have a game that's plagued with bugs and crashes and stuff, it kind of deters you from wanting to keep playing because you progress a certain distance in the game, and then a bug or crash happens, you got to start back over at your save spot because it didn't save. And a lot of these old school D&D games, they had save locations versus you can save anytime you want, and sometimes you just forget to save, and that can be very frustrating to players who are looking for that immersive experience, and they're constantly dealing with technical issues. And then I really think the biggest issue with this, not only with the technical issues, is when you play this game in 2011, you want it to be at a certain par of other games from a graphical standpoint. And when you look at Daggerdale, it's hard for you to imagine this game was released in 2011. And I think that had a lot of trouble is people felt like this game was pieced together. There were several other D&D games that came out that were hack and slash before this, and this doesn't even live up to them from a graphic standpoint, and it came out like a decade later. So I think those two things have combined together to really make it such a negatively rated game, because I think people had such a huge expectation, and this thing falls flat if you're trying to compare it. And furthermore, I think the gameplay, it just lacks depth, right? It's a very basic game. The combat is repetitive. The exploration is repetitive because you're stuck in these caverns. The character progression, I think it feels kind of shallow. You only get 3 classes, and there's not a ton of upgrading and creation. There are some places where you can buy gear, but it just feels shallow. And I feel like your options are limited, and there's not a lot of complexity to it, which makes it feel kind of repetitious. And when something's repetitive like that, it just isn't as fun. And I just think it was a game that had such high hype, and when you start playing it, it just leaves you as a player wanting more to the game that you hoped it would be more like some of the other games. And those are, I think, some of the main reasons that have led to the negative rating. But I also want to kind of get into like the story and the quest, because I think that also contributed a little bit to why this game is so negatively rated. Okay, so when you talk about the story, I think a critical aspect of any D&D experience lies in the stories and the quests, right? People who like D&D, they like getting into a character, role-playing this character, pretending you're Driss Duerden and you're underneath the Underdark and you're killing shit. And I feel like, unfortunately, Daggerdale missed the mark here, right? The storylines are very uninspired. The quests are just go this, do this. It's just very mundane tasks, and there's nothing that feels meaningful. And I think that has a lot to do with some of the critics of this game, right? It detracts from the potential enjoyment when, you know, along with all the technical issues you're battling, along with the simplicity of the game, but like the story and the quests aren't even engaging. Like sometimes you can be okay with crappy combat because you just like the story and the quests are fun. And I think in Daggerdale, you just add a terrible technical issues with the ugly, lackluster graphics and the gameplay. And they just add on terrible quests and story. And there's really not a ton of redeeming factors about this that makes it unique and meaningful. And I think that's kind of the problem. You know, I will say that I played Daggerdale, and it was more enjoyable than other games that I've played that have a higher Steam rating. I think the main reason this game receives such terrible ratings is when you compare it to other games that D&D in the genre. And, you know, what I did was I played this game, and then I played Dark Alliance, the original Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance, not the new Dungeons & Dragons Dark Alliance. And just seeing them so close together, it blew my mind how graphically similar they were. And when you realize that the original Dark Alliance came out in 2001 and Daggerdale came out in 2011, a decade later, you would expect Dark Alliance on steroids. Like, that's what you would expect that Daggerdale look like. And it doesn't. And even the gameplay, right? Like, in the old Dark Alliance game, you could, like, move around some boxes to use for cover, and there were some things that you could do that just made it unique. You could jump. There's just some unique features that you didn't get in a game that was 10 years older. And I really think that that is the main reason, to sum up why this got such a bad rating, is they were expecting something to be amazing given the track record, and what you get is something that lacks in pretty much every single category that you expect out of a game like this. So I think just to conclude this, right, this game attempted to be a D&D hack and slash like its predecessors, and it just didn't hit the mark, right? It technically had issues. The graphics weren't great. The storytelling wasn't great. And it could stand as a cautionary tale of what a D&D game should not be. And if you look out there, you can see that this is the lowest rated Steam game for a reason. And I think it has a lot to do with that. And ultimately, this is going to conclude our journey into this Daggerdale game. I don't know if you've played it before, but if you've played Daggerdale, I'd love to hear your comments below. Share your experience. Am I off base here? Is the whole Steam community off base? Is this game really better than I think it is? And then, leave it below, and we'll catch you in the next game. So, until next time, may your game be glitch-free and your dragons formidable. This is Van from the VaniverseGaming channel. Cheers, and peace out.